Hello, it's Connor Fogarty, and today I'm going to be teaching you about how to connect to a database using PHP. So first of all, in order to run PHP code, you need to have downloaded a live server, and so the live server I chose to download was XAMPP because after learning, the people I learned from, they used XAMPP and I felt pretty comfortable using it. And so in order to download XAMPP, you must go to apachefriends.org, and then it's pretty easy, simple. Just pick your operating system and then download it. And then so once you download it, you're going to want to start up the Apache and the MySQL servers, because these are the servers that you're going to be using when you're connecting to the database. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's go here. So if we type in localhost and we connect to it, this is our indexes. These are the programs we've made using PHP, and we have loaded them onto our XAMPP. And so in order to make a file that you want to run through the live server, it needs to be in your htdocs, which is in your XAMPP folder. So if we navigate over to the coding section, we'll see our XAMPP folder, and we'll also see right here is our htdocs. Your htdocs folder is where you're going to want to put all the files you want to put on your live server and you want to display through Chrome or whatever you're using. So with that out of the way, let's get straight into coding. Okay, so right now what I'm making is a simple program which we can use to access a database, and we'll get into creating databases later. So if we go ahead and open a folder and we go to our database test folder, which is in htdocs, and we double click on it and now select our folder. Alright, so now that we are inside of this folder, we're going to create an index.php file. And so this is what what Chrome is going to be using when it opens up this folder. So simply type in index.php in your and then press enter to create the file. And so then in order to actually show PHP code, we have a handy tag which goes like this. It's an open alligator mouth, whatever you call that, tag, and then it's a question mark, and then PHP. So that's what a PHP tag looks like, just to use for reference. Okay, so this is a simple we'll just, in order to make sure that this is working, we'll put up hello world. Alright, so now if we go over, and we know the name of this is database test, we'll go over to our indexes and we'll refresh it. And so we have right here, database test. And boom, it says hello world. Perfect. So now that we have that working, we're going to want to go back to our code, and we're going to change this a little bit. So instead of coding in HTML, we're going to do some PHP. So again, it's a question mark followed by PHP. Alright, so now that we have that, we're going to also want to create a new file, and we're going to call that database, or DB for short, .php. Perfect. Alright, and so in order to create a variable, we need to put the $, and then there's going to be 4 variables we're going to use in order to access our database. The first one is db name. Oh, sorry. We need to put that in PHP tags. Alright, so now it's registering as PHP code. Okay, and so that's going to be a string, and this string is essentially what the database name is called. And so in order to see your databases, you're going to want to go to localhost /php myadmin. So this will take you to all your databases this will take you to all the databases that you have on your local host. And so I've created a few test programs, and so here's the databases that I have. So some of these come with the XAMPP control panel, and these are like information schema, MySQL, performance schema, PHP myadmin, but the rest of them are ones that I've created. And so in order to create databases, you're going to have a bit of knowledge about SQL. And so we're going to want to create a new one. and we're going to create this new one using SQL. So, in order to create a database, or create a table, I'm sorry. Here, first we have to create a new one, and so we can just call this. We can call it test. Actually, we already have a test. We'll call it test database. Alright, so we're going to want to create that. And this is our new database. Right there. See it? So, we're going to want to create a table. And so, the SQL query to create a table is very, very simple. It's just simply create table in all caps, and then the name. And so, this one, our create table name is going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be, name. And so, or names. And then followed by closing. Alright, and so in this names, we're going to only have one column, and that's going to be name. And so name is going to be a character. It's going to be varchar, which is essentially just either numerical characters, and then in parentheses after that, you put the length of those characters. And so let's just say we'll make it 16, just in case someone has an especially long name. And we'll put it also to not null, so then you can enter null values into the name. Perfect. Alright, so since that's our only thing that that's our only column we're gonna have in table name, in the table called names, we're gonna just press go to start this query. And so it's gonna say, boom, you've created a table called names. And so when it says returned an empty result set, that means that there have been no errors creating this. So if we navigate back to test database, we're going to see that we have the table names. And inside that table of names, we have our column called name right here. So if we check out the structure of this, we'll see that the name column is has its varchar of 16, and it's not null. So sorry about that. Now that we've changed the code, it should display nothing. Okay, so moving back to our database.name, or name. So, in order to actually connect this file with this file, we're gonna have to add an include. And we're gonna have to include db.php. And so the database name will be test database. Alright, perfect. So now that we have that, we also have to have another one, and that's going to be the database username. And so because we're the administrator of this, we're going to be the root user. And so there's also going to be no password for this one. Nothing. Alright, and then we're going to have one final one, and that's going to be database, sorry, we're going to change name to localhost. And then we're going to also have db name equals test database. And so then now we're going to have our connect statement, which is a function called mysqli connect. And there's going to be 4 parameters, and these are just going to be simply our variables. First being db username, or name, so rather db username, db password, and finally db name. And so since we included this, if we navigate back, if I made a mistake, there should display an error, which I did not. Sweet, perfect. And so just to make sure that this is connected, we'll just say echo this is included.
If it's not 10 minutes, all deals are off.
Oh, alright, sweet. It is included. Perfect. Alright, so now that we're connected, we can actually access this database through our file. And so in order to do that, we're gonna put a closing tag to this include statement, and we're just gonna put an input in, and this will input something to our database. And so if you know how inputs work, essentially there's forms, and then these forms have actions, and so the action is the place that the file goes to, or the place that this goes to. And so the action is going to be itself, index.php. And so the method, there's two methods, there's get and there's post. And so the post method is much more secure, as it transfers the data through the HTTPS, whereas the get method transfers it through the URL. So it's we're gonna just refresh this. So now we have our input, and so the method is going to be post for this one, just to be more secure. And so the name of this will be name. Alright, and then we're going to also have an input called submit, and the value equals submit. And so if we submit this, it should refresh the page. Yep, perfect. Alright, so now that we have that out of the way, we're going, or actually just to show you how get works, we're going to make a get method. And so if we refresh this, and we put Connor, in the URL, it will show name equals Connor, right there. That is a get method variable. And so in order to access these, which we'll get to later on, you just take them out of the URL. And so moving back, if we take this back, it should just take us back. Alright, sweet. And so now that we're using the post method, it will not display in the URL, just like that. But it did transfer the things just through the page itself. Alright, so now that that's working, we're going to add another PHP opening tag. Alright, and so in order, so now that we have these opening tag, what we're going to do is we're going to take this variable that we made, and it's going to be in the post variables, like this. And so then inside this post bracket, we're going to put the name of the variable, which is name. So, and so we're going to also, are you done? No. So we're going to set this equal to name. Alright.
Need this.
Alright. So now that we're alright, so we've set this post variable to a variable called name, and then in order to access this through our database, we're gonna do MySQLi query, or actually first let's just set our SQL query to a variable, which will be a string, which will be our SQL query, and it'll be insert into, and then our database name, which is test database, or no, rather, it's actually name, because that's our table. We're inserting it into a table, which is names, and then we're going to put the, what we're inserting into, which is name, and then values, and then the value is just going to be the name variable. So essentially what it's doing is it's inserting into the database, or the table names, inside the name column, it inserts the name variable. And so then simply after that, you just do the MySQL query, or sorry, we have to actually set this to db equals, so then we can access that. So in order to do a MySQL query, you just simply have to have the database connection, which is db, and then a second parameter is the SQL. Alright, so now that that's working, if we go back here, alright, and then we're gonna need to add some quotation marks here, and so then once we do that, it should be fully functioning. So if we put in our name, press submit, and then go to localhost/php myadmin, and then it should be in the results. There we are, as our name. And we could test it again by putting in someone else's name. And if we refresh the page, it should show up with Aiden. Beautiful. Alright, that'll wrap up the video. Thanks for watching.